Well, good morning, Image family. I hope you're doing well. If you are a guest with us and you're back this week, we are so glad that you're here. Maybe you're joining us for the first time here this week. We're so glad that you're here. Y'all, listen, we had an unbelievable time last weekend. I hope you're able to join us. We had close to 300 folks that were here, but more importantly, we had at least 5 people that indicated surrendering their lives to Christ for the first time. Can we put our hands together and celebrate that? I share that because we prayed and we asked God to do what we couldn't do, and he drew people here and he drew people to himself. And so we want to celebrate God's activity in the life of our church. And I don't know about y'all, but I'm just really excited about what God's been doing here in our church. It is a great time to jump in. It is a great time to be part of what's happening here because God is on the move. Well, listen, if you got your Bibles, grab them and turn to Genesis chapter 1. Genesis chapter 1. Now, I know for some of you, if you've been around for a minute, you're like, hold up, bro. We've been in 1 Corinthians for a minute. And we have been. Since January, we kicked off a series in 1 Corinthians. We've been walking line by line, verse by verse through 1 Corinthians. We're going to be hitting pause on that series, and we're going to pick back up this fall, and we're going to finish it in part 2 as we dive into a brand new series this morning called Better Together, Finding Life in Community. Y'all, one of our objectives, it's on the wall out there, one of our goals as a church is we want everybody connected to a group. We want everybody connected to a group. It's on the wall. We care about it. And why it matters is because we don't just want to be an event that you attend. We want to be a people that you belong to. And what can happen is if we're not careful, we'll find ourselves in a place where we come week after week, but we're not connected to anybody. We don't really know anybody. And we come into a room and there's people in there and it's kind of familiar faces, but we don't have any kind of connection. Not to mention, y'all, God has been incredibly gracious to us really in the turn of this new year. We have so many new folks that are joining in the life of our church. And so we want you to be connected to people. People connect with people, and we want you to be connected in that way. One of the things that we want to see happen is we want you to connect with groups of people. And I know you're like, man, I can't connect with everybody. Well, that's not the goal. You come in here on a weekend, you can't connect with everybody on a given weekend. You don't know everybody that's here, but you can connect with some. And that connection, it matters. And that's what we're going to spend time talking about in this series. And in addition, not only are we going to talk about why that connection matters, why group life is important, but we want to give you a chance to take an action step together. We want to create an easy on-ramp for you getting connected to a group in the life of this church. More to come on that a little bit later, but I want you to know that's what we're aiming toward as we look at this idea of better together. And as I was preparing for this sermon series and even preparing for this morning, I started thinking about kind of back in college. I had a buddy of mine. He actually showed up this morning at the first service, which is crazy, who was here. And but my buddy and I, man, we rolled together and we did all kind of crazy stuff. I remember specifically one of them came to mind when I was at the University of Chapel Hill. We both went there, and there's a road called Stadium Drive that goes down the middle of campus. And there's brick buildings. There's a lot of brick happening. Well, I drove a 1992 GMC Sierra dual exhaust, 4-inch tips. That thing would shake the buildings, and I would hammer it driving up that road. I wanted everybody to wake up. I want them to know I was driving through. Like, that was my thing. You know, I just love driving through Stadium Drive. Well, we get this bright idea as we're driving down Stadium Drive. Hey, listen, and I just look at him. I was like, follow my lead. We're going to pretend like something's wrong with the truck. So it's 2 lanes, so you can't go around anybody. And so I get just like 2 cars before the stop sign at the end of the road, and I throw my car in park, put the emergency flashers on. I jump out, pop the hood, and immediately he dives under the car. You know, he's looking under the car, acting like something's wrong. I'm looking at the thing. I'm doing my hands. You know, meanwhile, traffic's backing up. One by one, cars are adding up. And so we're like, how long can we hang this thing? So that's our goal. Horns start going off. Cars start beeping. We're walking out going, what do you want us to do? You know, and doing our hands and this whole thing. And I'm just like, man, I don't know why we did this, but we did. This is college life. I don't know. And so, you know, we'd do that. We'd do the awkward horn. We'd pull up at a stoplight and just hold the horn down as long as humanly possible to make everybody else feel uncomfortable. We didn't care. I was with him and he's with me, and we're like, whatever. We'll just let it ride. And people at stoplights like, what is going on? Is there a stroke victim in the car? You know, like, and I'll never forget this one time. There were some folks, they were doing some things they shouldn't do. They were smoking some things they shouldn't be smoking in this turf field. And so we get this idea. We're like, you know what? We should teach them a lesson. You know, we should hold them accountable and teach them a lesson. So we fill up water balloons and we put on hooded sweatshirts, and we got all of our like pocket full of water balloons. And so we're like, okay, we're just going to straight own this. We're going to charge it, and we're going to smoke them point blank with water balloons. And so we get ready to run. It's like, all right, you ready? And so like 1, 2, 3. Well, he lobs one up in the air, like toward the circle where they are. And so we go running toward them. And right as we plant and we start to yell, the water balloon smacks down right in the middle, the one he had pre-launched, and they turn to look at us, and we just hammer down every one of them, like face shots. But they were soaking wet, and then we ran off, you know? And I share that because, man, I was just thinking about these crazy stories. I could go on and on and on. But I was thinking about these crazy stories, and I'm like, man, the thing that I remember about those stories is that I always did them with him. I had a companion with me every step of the way. I had somebody that was doing it with me, that was involved in it all. And, you know, not just those things, but he was also involved in the good things and the hard things. Like, he was my companion in college that helped me get through life. And I helped him get through life. And we were in each other's lives. And so I say that because I want to ask you this question. Who do you have around you? Who's in your life? Who knows your strengths? Who knows your weaknesses? Listen, you were created for community. You were created for companionship. You were created to have people around you. The question is, do you? You need people around you for the good times, the bad times, the fun times, the crazy times, the sad times. You need people around you. You weren't created to do life alone. Genesis chapter 1, verse 26 says this. Then God said, "Let us make man in our image, according to our likeness. They will rule the fish of the sea, the birds of the sky, the livestock, the whole earth, and the creatures that crawl on the earth." And you're like, how do we get there? And no, I'm not going to talk about how awesome it is that man rules the fish of the sea. It means we get fishing. I mean, there's there's dove hunting here. I mean, there's steak. There's a whole nother sermon for what we can eat because of this, all right? How do we land on this text? There's two things that are super important as we look at this. It says, then God said, let us make man in our image. What does that mean? Let us make man in our image. The us is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. So we get the picture of the triune God of the Bible. The triune God of the Bible is one God, three distinct persons. By the way, let me just say this. You pull any person of the Trinity out, you no longer have the God of the Bible. It's an important piece because we live in a culture where it's like, yeah, I'm cool with God, but Jesus, not so much. Problem, you've just debunked, you just pulled apart. You're no longer dealing with the God of the Bible. The God of the Bible is a triune God. One God, three persons that have existed in perfect community for all of eternity. And the beauty of what we see in the Godhead is this perfect essence of community. You see all three persons of the Trinity that existed in this perfect community for all of eternity. And then what you get is, watch this, out of that perfect community, God creates. God creates. Let us make man in our image. Y'all, here's the point. We were created from community for community. We were created from community for community. Let me show you this. Look at Genesis chapter 2, verse 18, just a chapter later. Then the Lord God said, it is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper corresponding to him. God says it's not good for man to be alone. You were created from community for community. It's not good for man to be alone. Now, we often just think about this as well. This is kind of Eve's entry into the game here, that God's going to create Eve for Adam. And yes, though that is true, it's talking about Adam's immediate companionship. What the rest of the Bible shows us is that this statement is bigger than just that. This statement's bigger than that. Y'all, the reality is we were not created to be alone. We were not created to be isolated. It's not a good thing. It's not good for man to be alone. God's sitting here saying solitude's not good for you. Solitude's not good for me. Isolation is dangerous. Isolation is dangerous. So often we feel like we can do this life on our own, and yet we're walking around in isolation. I was thinking about a buddy of mine. He's huge. He's 6'6". He's about 250 pounds. He's a right-handed pitcher, so he's about 8 feet tall when he was standing on the mound. And this guy and I and another buddy of mine, we love to hunt. And so we'd go hunt together, and we go to this guy's property for the first time, and, you know, we divvy up who's going to sit in what stand and where we're going to go. And so my buddy, the 6'6" dude, he gets the tripod stand in the middle of nowhere. Now, middle of nowhere. Let me give you a little context. We're in eastern North Carolina. Eastern North Carolina is home of cottonmouths. It's home of copperheads. It's home of rattlesnakes, alligators, and saltwater crocodiles. And by the way, they also have bears there too. So my buddy's going in full well known. We're in the middle of nowhere in eastern North Carolina, and he's going to a tripod stand on the back half of the property. He also knows that they've seen bears over there at that property. But, here he goes. He heads off into the wilderness, and that's kind of what we do. That's the excitement of hunting. And so he gets out there, and he finds that the tripod stand is about 100 yards through about waist-deep water. So he starts wading through waist-deep water to get out there. It's an evening hunt, so it's not dark yet. So he's wading through that thing. Now, by the way, waist-deep water for him is like chest-deep for me, okay? So we're talking about a unique context here. And so he makes it to the tripod stand, and he gets in there, and he hunts, and sadly enough, he doesn't see anything. But he gets ready to get out of his stand. So here's the thing when you deer hunt. You can shoot an animal 30 minutes after sunset, okay? Just in case you ever hunt, which you should. You got 30 minutes after the sun sets. That's still shooting light. 30 minutes before, 30 minutes after. Okay, that was free. But 30 minutes after comes. Well, he goes ready to get down from the stand. It gets really dark fast after those 30 minutes. Like time races down after those 30 minutes, it feels like. Well, he gets ready to get out of the stand and realizes that he forgot his flashlight. So he's climbing down this tripod stand, knows he has to walk through waist-deep water, knows that there is rattlesnakes, water moccasins, copperheads, alligators, and they've also seen bears at this stand, and he has no flashlight. Well, on top of that, he has no phone service. So, and by the way, it's bow season, so he doesn't have a gun. So he's got his bow. So what he does is he takes an arrow and he just clutches the arrow. There's a sharp broadhead at the end. And he's like, I'm ready to take on, hell or high water here. This is all I can do. And he starts making his way, this mammoth of a man, making his way through this waist-deep water, right? Not sure where he should go because he doesn't have cell service. He can't see. There's no trail that you follow in waist-deep water. You know what I mean? So he's walking his way through and holding his phone up, trying to find cell service and walks and can't find cell service. And so all of a sudden, out of nowhere, he gets cell phone service. Finally. So he calls our other buddy. And I find out all this after the fact because of what I hear next. My other buddy just starts laying on the horn. Like I just hear a horn over and over. I'm like, is there an emergency? What's going on here? Why is the horn beeping? Well, I found out later, my buddy couldn't find his way back. So my other friend that's at the truck says, just listen to the horn. Walk toward the horn. Well, y'all, here's the problem about the woods. The horn feels like it's that way, but it's really that way. So he's wandering and walking, trying to follow the sound of the horn. There's hollering going on at this point. It's getting really, really dark. Meanwhile, I'm nice and comfortable in my stand. I know where the truck is. I've got my flashlight, and there's no water to wade in, okay? So I get back to the truck, and where is he at? Can't find him. There's hollering, there's horn, all this stuff. And finally, here he comes, walking out. This mammoth of a man, arrow clutched in hand, mad at the world, angry as fire. He's like, I've been walking around the woods, tore up by mosquitoes. I mean, just miserable. But he makes his way finally outside of the deer stand and out of the woods. And I say that because, man, as big as he is, as capable as he is, isolation is dangerous. Isolation is dangerous. It doesn't matter how good you think you are. It doesn't matter how strong you think you are, how capable you think you are of navigating this life. Isolation is dangerous. You have no idea what's out there. You have no idea what could come at you, and you cannot do this thing on your own. Isolation is dangerous. And by the way, when we talk about isolation, listen to me. What I don't mean is living on a mountainside with nobody within earshot in the corner of Nowheresville. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about not having people that know you. And for some of y'all, you're hiding in plain sight. You've got people around you. You've got so-called friends. Nobody knows you. Nobody knows what's going on in your life. You're isolated in the midst of people. You don't think about it that way. We say, well, man, I've got, so-and-so and so-and-so. And yet you wonder, why is it that you're not growing more spiritually? Why do you feel like you plateaued spiritually? Why is it that you can't seem to continue to grow? Why does your fervor always burn out? It's because you're in isolation. You don't have people around you. Why is it that you always make poor decisions? Again, man, you made that same decision again because you've got nobody around you. You've got nobody that's walking through it with you. Nobody to bounce anything off of financially or spiritually, physically. You're isolated. Or you wonder why your marriage is always struggling because you've got nobody else that's fighting for it with you. You got nobody holding your arms up. Nobody saying, yeah, it's hard. Nobody confronting the sin in you and the selfishness in you. You got nobody fighting for your marriage. And you wonder why, man, it's just hard. It's hard. It's hard. Feel like we can't get out of this hole, and you got nobody fighting for you. Or you wonder why you keep falling into peer pressure again and again. Why is it you keep doing that thing at work? Why is it you keep complying with that coworker? Why do you keep laughing at that joke? Why do you keep doing these things with your classmates? Why do you keep falling to peer pressure? Because you're in isolation. You got nobody that you're processing that with, or that's walking with you, or you're like, man, help me, hold me accountable for this situation that happens at work or at school or with my roommate. You got nobody around you. Or you wonder why you go back to that girl again, or back to that guy again, over and over, this toxic cycle of a relationship. Because you got nobody that's walking with you through it all. Nobody that's in the thick of it with you saying, you're better than that. Come on. You know better. You know what this relationship's done to you and them and the people around you. You know better than that. Or you wonder why you don't ever feel good enough. Man, you just don't feel worthy or capable or good enough. It's because you got nobody that's encouraging you or affirming you. For some of y'all, you're in here, you hadn't been affirmed in months. You've got nobody speaking life over you, speaking truth over you. You've got nobody affirming that you're good at things, that you're capable, that you're valuable, not because of you, but because of who Christ has made you to be. You got nobody giving that kind of affirmation in your life. Isolation is dangerous. For some of y'all, you're like my buddy that's in the woods and you don't even know it. That's the scary part. Proverbs 18:1, one who isolates himself pursues selfish desires. He rebels against all sound wisdom. What the text shows us is that isolation leads to selfishness and rebellion. Leads to selfishness and rebellion. Y'all, listen, we don't even know what's good for us all the time. We don't. That's why we make poor decisions. We don't have the capability of seeing all angles of our life. We can't do a 360 eval as we're walking through life because we're in it. We need people outside of it. We don't know what's good for us oftentimes. We need people that can speak life into our circumstances. Think about it like this. Like, man, look, I know for some of y'all, and this is like the high life, but y'all have got this sensor for blind spots. There's a little light that pops on when there's a car in your blind spot. Now, I drive a 2007 Chevy Silverado. We don't got those on that truck, okay? Nor do I have a backup camera. So if you have those things, you're blessed and highly favored, okay? However, I'm just going to tell you, a grown man knows how to back a truck up without a camera. I'm just going to say that. Another story for another day, all right? Anyway, y'all got these sensors on the truck that let you know, or your car lets you know there's a car, blind spot, warning, blind spot, warning. Y'all, we need the same thing in our life. Spiritually speaking, physically speaking, emotionally speaking, we need people saying, blind spot, hey, listen, warning, blind spot, there's something, you don't see it, I do, warning. We need people that let us know, that light that flashes. We need people that can question our motives. We can justify anything left to ourselves. We need people that can question those motives. What are you really after in this? Is it really after like God's glory, or is it more about your gain? Like, what are your motives in these things? Here's another one. What about we need somebody that can check our feelings? We need somebody that can hold our feelings in check, because if we operate out of our feels, we're not going to make good decisions. I've told y'all before that feelings are like a 2-year-old and a car. You don't take the 2-year-old and put it in the driver's seat. That's dangerous and reckless. You also don't take the 2-year-old and put it in the trunk and shut it. You'd be arrested for that. The 2-year-old belongs in the back seat in its car seat. That's the best place for that 2-year-old to thrive and to function. The same is true with your feelings. Your feelings cannot drive what you do. They also don't need to be your caboose. But in order for those feelings to be in the right place, you've got to have people around you that can help you see that. Hey, you're operating out of emotions right now. You're an emotional wreck. Don't make this decision. This is an emotional decision. This is not a wise decision. It's an emotional one. We need people around us that can speak those things into us. Y'all, listen, if we don't have space for that, we're going to struggle in this life. Proverbs says we will struggle in this life. And what I need you to see is that this space is bigger than just what happens on the weekend. We want to move past an event to a people that you belong to, a group that you have around you. You need people around you. You weren't created to be alone. It's not good for you. It's not good for you. Being in groups, being in a group of people helps you continue on. it helps you in your discipleship journey. I think about my buddy who, again, actually showed up this morning. I think about his story. When I tell y'all, and he would tell it more than I would, the R-rated version, when I say lost, this man was lost, exclamation point. Like, and it's not just me just saying that, like I knew him. I knew everything I knew all that he was in and around and the lostness, the darkness of his heart. And I watched as he came to Christ through group life. Then I watched as he was shaped by group life. And I watched as he began to process things in group life where he failed and was restored in group life. I watched the impact and influence of a group of people around him, different people, different backgrounds that were so instrumental in his story. And I'm reminded of two things. Number one, nobody is outside of God's grace. Nobody's too far gone that God can't save. And that in the process, when God brings that salvation, he uses the church to help walk that person through what being saved looks like. And that happens in groups. It happened in his life in groups. And then I watch as now he's leading different groups of people. He's got a group from his gym. He's got a group from his church. And I'm watching now as he's pouring out and I look at what God's doing in him and through him. Y'all, group life, it matters. It's not good that you are alone. Left to yourself, you're going to be selfish and you're going to be a rebel. You're going to be selfish, you're going to be a rebel, according to Proverbs 18, verse 1. Look at Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9. Two are better than one because they have a good reward for their efforts. For if either falls, his companion can lift him up. But pity the one who falls without another to lift him up. Also, if two lie down together, they can keep warm. But how can one person alone keep warm? And if someone overpowers one person, two can resist him. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. A cord of 3 strands is not easily broken. Now listen, I need to say this. I love y'all. And I love you enough to tell you this. I know for some of you that this verse was read at your wedding. And that's awesome. I just need you to understand this verse has nothing to do with a marriage. This is not you, your husband, and Jesus, okay? Jesus is at the right hand of the Father, first of all, so another sermon for another day. But second of all, it has nothing to do with marriage. This is talking about companionship. The text is clear, and what Solomon's writing here is very clear. This is about companionship, not your wedding and all that kind of stuff. Here's the point. You're stronger and able to endure when you have a person on either side of you. You're stronger and able to endure when you have a person on either side of you. That's 3 people, by the way, and that's the 3 strands of the cord. And you say, okay, well, what kind of person do I have beside me? What kind of person should be beside me? Oh, well, the text says it's a companion. A companion. Well, what is a companion? And this is important. Don't miss this. What is a companion? A companion is a person who is frequently in the company of another. I'm going to read it one more time. A companion is a person who's frequently in the company of another. In other words, a companion is not necessarily your BFF. A companion is not necessarily the person that you walk in and you're like, my ride or die, let's do this thing. Cool if they are, that's not what the text is saying. The text isn't saying that you've got to find somebody that fits perfectly into your affinity set that becomes your BFF for life where y'all make bracelets together and go on trips. This is important. And it's important why? Because so often people are let down because they expect the church to play matchmaker with friendships. And that's not the call of the church. Y'all listen, the Bible actually doesn't explicitly talk about friendships very much at all. You know what it talks about? How to be a brother and sister. You know why that matters? Because you don't pick your brother and your sister, you're born with them. The Bible talks about how to navigate relationships where Christ is the only one at the center. Christ is the one that brings you together in the process. What happens so often is expectations cater experience. And people expect the church to be the place they matchmake with their best friend. And it just doesn't always happen. And then people go, well, I just don't feel connected here. And well, I don't. Now, do I hope you find your best friends here? Absolutely. We have some of those here. I hope that you find them. I hope you can find your BFF and you can make bracelets and go on trips together, right? That'd be awesome. But I can't guarantee that. We can't manufacture that. That comes more naturally based off of where you are and the affinities that you have. And I hope that's true, but that can't be your expectation when it comes to verses like this and we think, well, I just don't have that person. I can't find that person. We want to help you find a companion. Now, they may turn into a best friend. They may not. But I'll tell you this. I know a lot of people that would not have been my BFF in high school. They would not have been my BFF in college. I wouldn't have connected with them. I wouldn't have run with them. I wouldn't have been anywhere kind of in circles around them. But they have been some of the best companions in mine and my family's life ever. Ever. Why? Because a companion says, I'm sticking with you thick or thin. A companion's not saying we're bound based off of affinity. A companion's saying we're bound based off of a brother-sisterhood. It's different. It's different. And so we've got to understand the call of the church is not to cultivate best friendships. If it happens, awesome. Hope you can find that. But the call of the church is to develop brother-sister relationships, to develop companion relationships. So often I think about Jesus, right? Jesus brings together his companions. It's 12 ragtag dudes from all different kind of backgrounds. I can only imagine them sitting at the table. You talk about different people, they're radically different. Politically, the whole bit. They're ethnically, they're different. And yet, they're brought around Jesus. And I just specifically picture the moment where Jesus says his famous line. He says, the Son of Man didn't come to be served, but to serve, giving his life as a ransom for many. And I think about right after that what happened is Jesus would get down, take a towel, he'd get on his hands and knees, and he'd wash the feet of his disciples. And I think about as he'd wash each disciple's feet, how drastically different he was from them on multiple levels. But just, man, how different they were. And yet these are the companions that Jesus had around him. These are the companions that would become brotherhood, that would, all of them, 11 out of 12 of them, would die a brutal death. One of them exiled. John would be on the island of Patmos, right? Like this horrific, why? They were held together by something greater. This different group of people is held together by something greater. Jesus was the one that held them together. Jesus is the one that they were oriented around. Jesus was the one that shaped their relationships. Didn't mean they didn't still have friends outside of that group. Didn't mean they didn't know other people, right? Paul would get tight with Barnabas and several others Timothy. There's so many other friendships that happen outside of even Jesus' 12, right? Like there's friendships that formed off of that and relationships that crossed over. And yet what we see that around Jesus specifically is a group of people that are radically different. He's the one thing that held them together. Companionship is what we're after. Companionship is the call of the church. So let me ask you this. Who's your companion? Who's your companion? People who are frequently in your company. That's what we mean by companion. Who are the companions you have around you? Who are the people that are frequently around you? That you frequently engage time with? Who is it that when you fall extends an arm to you? Who is it when you're in need helps you? Who is it when you're in trouble, they're there for you and with you to sit in the midst of that? See, you need companions in your life. You weren't created to be alone. You were created to be alone. You're created for more than that. You're created for more than that. And y'all listen, when you have a group around you, a group of companions around you, you have the opportunity to receive love, service, care, help, meals, right? Like, listen, let me just say this. As a church, we want to be really, really good at caring for people that are a part of our church. We want to care well, have meals. We want to help people do certain things. We want to care for people in need. But listen, the greatest way that we're able to do that is when people are connected to group life. You know why? Because when you're in the thick of it, you know what you're not wanting to do? Let me send an email over here to so-and-so and get the... No. When somebody's in a group with you and they see your need, they can reach out to our deacon. We have an unbelievable deacon body, by the way. They are masterful. They each have categories of care that they're over. We are great at mobilizing people. We're great at meeting needs. We want to get even better at that. But the thing is, the only way we can continue to make sure we're intentional with you is if you're connected to people that can be the ones that reach out when you have needs. We don't know what we don't know. And so often what happens is, again, expectations cater experience. People walk into a church, they're like, well, I just don't really feel connected. Listen, one of the biggest things when people say, I don't feel connected, and or they're walking through something spiritually, you know what I'll ask them? First question, are you in a group? You in a group? And the people that are most unhealthy, their answer is always no, they're not. And I get it, because isolation isn't helpful. When you're in a group, you have the chance to be able to have people around you that can care for you, but that can also call in the rest of the church to help facilitate in that care as well. They can help set up get to the deacon so we can set up a meal train. They can make sure that you've got the people there to help you. All that kind of stuff can happen when you're in a group. We want to help mobilize the church the best that we can. But the best way we can do that is when you're connected with people so we can know what's up. We can know what's going on in your life. So not only do you have the chance to be able to receive care in a group like Ecclesiastes talks about, you also have the chance to be able to give care and help and love and service. I need you to wrap your head around this for just a second. There's 59 one another commands in the New Testament. 59 one another commands in the New Testament. My question is, where do we live those out? We can't do them all here on a Sunday, a couple hours, right? Like, how do we live these things out? How do we faithfully put these into practice? And by the way, I just need you to understand this. Those 59 one another commands, they're not burdens, they're blessings. See, here's the thing about the Bible. Any call that we have to be obedient, to live out a certain way, it's always a reminder for us, not a rule for us. See, the beauty of the Bible is it's not a list of rules that you follow. It's a list of reminders that point you back to Jesus. See, those 59 one another commands, every time we walk in those things, practice those things, you know what we're doing? We're reenacting what Christ has done for us. See, this is the beauty of these 59 one another commands. In our obedience, the motivation and the means for how we participate in that happens by fixing our eyes on Jesus. In those moments, you're like, I don't want to care for this person. I don't want to love this person. I don't want to, whatever it is. You know your only way you're going to be able to do it? You go back and you say, well, gosh, I remember what Christ did for me. When I was a rebel running from him, he didn't just meet my physical needs. He met my eternal needs. And he didn't just give some of himself. He laid all of himself down for me. The least I can do is respond by loving my friend well, serving my friend well, my person well, you know, whoever it is that you're serving within that group that you're a part of. And so those 59 one another commands are not burdens, they're blessings that God's given us to orient ourselves around Jesus. We say this often, but we want to begin to become the things that Christ has been to us. 59 one another commands helps us have categories to be able to do that. It helps us to become those things to other people. So when they look at us, we're glimpses of the goodness of the grace that we've received. And so I need you to understand the beauty of being in a group of people, to have companions, to commit to a companionship, is not only do you receive gifts of grace as reenactments of the gospel, but you can give acts of grace as reenactments of the gospel. There's a beauty that happens in companionship. There's a beauty that happens when you're in groups. And at the end of the day, y'all, listen to me. It's all ultimately about the gospel anyway. It's all about the gospel. It's not just about care and physical needs, but it's mainly about our spiritual need. Because we're not going to ever operate physically correctly if spiritually we're in a wrong place. So one of the biggest thrusts of why group and why group life is so we can be encouraged and reminded of gospel things so that we can live out gospel ways. Watch this. Hebrews 3:12. One of my favorite texts, but it's also scary. It says this: watch out, brothers and sisters, so that there won't be in any of you an evil and unbelieving heart that turns away from the living God. But encourage each other daily while it is still called today, so that none of you is hardened by sin's deception. For we have become participants in Christ if we hold firmly until the end the reality that we had at the start. What the author of Hebrews is saying is that we have to have people around us in order to make it to the end of the Christian life. In other words, the goal of the Christian life is not to become better people, it's to behold Jesus to the end. And what the author of Hebrews is saying is you can't do that on your own. There's an arrogance that says, I got this. There's a selflessness and humility that says, I desperately need other people to remind me of the gospel because I have spiritual amnesia. Y'all, listen, this text is very clear that if we don't have people around us, we run the risk of letting go in faith. We run the risk of letting go in faith, saying like, man, the way I think about it is like this. If you're holding on to the gospel through faith, right, by the power of the Holy Spirit, and it's like you're holding on, and then you got all these hands on top of it, hand on hand on hand on hand. So you get to this point, you get to these hard moments, you get these things in life, and you're like, I'm done, I'm letting go. Problem is you can't open your hand. You know why? Because there's 10 people or 3 people or 4 people holding your hand shut saying, I'm not letting you let go. This is the picture we get in Hebrews 3. That we need people around us to hold on to the gospel, to make it to the end. Y'all, listen, we want to be faithful, but we've got to hold on to where we started. Where did we start? Faith in the finished work of Jesus. Faith alone, through Christ alone. We want to continue that the rest of our life until our last days. And then when we get done, our last day comes, well done, my good and faithful servant, not based off of your works, but based off of Christ in your place. And you enter in. That's the hope of the Christian life, but we can't do it on our own. We cannot make it in this life by ourselves. And for some of you, my fear is that you're walking in isolation, you're hiding in plain sight, you're acting as though you can do this on your own, and you can't. Not my words. Author of Hebrews said it. You got to have people around you to help you endure to the end so you don't fall away. Who are those people? Who are those companions in your life? Well, listen, at the end of the day, you got to take an action step, and you got to step toward this. You got to step toward this, right? You got to understand you were created from community, for community. Isolation's unhelpful. Groups are healthy. Groups help you hold on to the end. Groups remind you of the gospel. So you've got to take that step. We can't take that for you, but we can facilitate it. I'll never forget, Pastor Fred was in the earlier service. I've known Pastor Fred for, 12 or 13 years. And so, Pastor Fred, I'm at the church we were planted out of. He shows up. He was working for a company called SAS. He didn't know a single soul in the entire city. I don't even know if he knew anybody in the state of North Carolina where we were. And he comes walking into the Summit Church where I was on staff. I was at a different campus, different location at the time. And Pastor Fred walks in. He doesn't even get in the lobby. And he sees somebody with a lanyard, walks up, says, "Hey, my name's Fred Odom. I want to be discipled by somebody. Can you get me connected?" And if you know Fred, you're like, makes total sense. But that's what he did. And so that guy got Pastor Fred connected to my community group that ironically my buddy that was here this morning was also in. We had a bunch of other people from all different kind of backgrounds. We saw 7 people come to Christ, and this church ultimately was planted kind of as a result of what God was doing through all of that. And so I look and I'm like, man, I'm reminded that it takes some intentionality on our end, that we can't expect for the church just to cater to us. The church doesn't know what the church doesn't know. You've got to take that action step like Pastor Fred. You've got to say, yes, I know I need this, and yes, I want this, and then we will do the best that we can to facilitate that, which leads me to the second thing that I want you to see. If you've got a cell phone, and I know you all do, don't hide them, go ahead and grab them and pull them out. We're going to put a QR code on the screen. There's a groups form. We're going to camp here for a little while, so if you don't take your phone out, it's going to be super awkward. I just need to peer pressure you for a second. It's going to be awkward. We're going to camp here and walk through it. But there's this form. In this form, you're going to see a list of questions. You have plenty of time to fill that out in the next couple of minutes. If you're in a group, if you lead a group, don't care. We want every single person to fill this form out. Because here's what this is going to do. As leadership at the church, this helps us create on-ramps for you. You got to put your yes on the table. You got to say you want it. Our job is to facilitate it. And so we want to do the best that we can to facilitate groups to the greatest degree possible. And listen, we want to make sure that groups are possible for everybody. I know for some of y'all, you're like, you don't know how busy I am. I don't, but there's others in our church that do, and they can walk with you through that process, and we want to get you connected. Like, that's our mentality. We want to make groups possible for everybody. We want you to connect with people. And I'll be honest, like, just hear this as your pastor. I want you connected to a group. I don't necessarily care how you're connected, but I want you connected to a group because I know that you need it, that you can't do this on your own. What we want to do, and you're going to see some of these questions are helping reveal this, but we want localized, flexible groups. We want high impact gatherings. We don't want to just gather for the sake of gathering. We want them to be purposeful. We want to offer both online and hybrid or digital groups because we recognize, man, some of y'all are in your car for like 3 hours, and I get it. It's hard to make it across town to a group, but what if you could jump on Zoom and meet with a group of guys or a group of girls for 45 minutes to an hour throughout the month and be able to unpack some of the things you're dealing with or walking through and pray together and have people up in that. We want to have family integrated experiences where, some of you got kids and it's hard. Like, man, how can we make groups in a way where you can attend with your family? Your family can be a part of it. We want smaller gender-based groups, men-specific, women-specific, where you can dive in together. For some of you, you're like, man, I'm hungry for that. I need that. I want that. And so specifically, you're gonna do that. There's so many options that we want to roll out because, again, we want to make it easy for you to connect to a group. And so here's the goal, is we want everybody to fill that form out. If you hadn't done it, now's a great time. But we want everybody to fill that form out. We're going to take that data, and then it's going to allow us to be able to launch new groups. We're going to soft launch these new groups this summer. And then by August, we're going to have this whole menu, if you will, of opportunities for you to connect with people, because that's what it's ultimately about, so that you don't have to walk through life alone, so that you have people around you, which is why you'll notice that we're going to move away from community group language, and we're just moving to groups. Community groups historically has been a certain type of kind of co-ed group. Now, we're making a more broad definition of groups, and so it's easier to not put them in a box and just call them groups. We want everybody connected to a group. That might mean that it's you, your wife, and your kids, and another family, and you guys connect, and y'all have a group. It might mean a group of 3 dudes, 3 girls. It might be a Bible study. There's so many ways that this could look. It might be that you're hybrid online, whatever. We want every single person connected to a group, and we want to do all that we can to make this possible. That is our goal, to make this simple. We want everybody to find a group to intentionally gather regularly with in a way that best fits your current life stage right now, because we recognize we've got to study our city. A lot of you drive, a lot of you commute, a lot of us are spread out. That doesn't mean that we just go, well, community's hard here, groups are hard here. No. We want to double down and create opportunities for you to be a part of groups. And so that's what's coming for us as it relates to this group rollout. So please make sure that you fill that form out. Again, if you're already in a group, leading a group, don't care. Just fill it out, because the more information we have, the more groups we can roll out. And then we give you access points to be able to find those companions that we believe you so desperately need to continue in the Christian life, okay? So listen, here's where I want to circle back to. At the end of the day, all of this, motivation, drive, it's all about us just wanting to hold on to the gospel. And I know for some of you this morning, you may be here and you're not a Christian, or you're exploring the Christian faith, or a friend invited you. What I need you to know is that you have a place in a group. That might be one of the greatest places for you to start. It's where my buddy started, in a group. It might be a great place for you to be able to start. Or maybe this morning you realize that, man, I've heard about what Christ has done. I hear how great Jesus is, and maybe your eyes are open for the very first time to who Christ is and what he's done. And this morning, it's not some ritual you do. It's just a surrender. It's a posture that you have. Romans 10:9. If you believe in your heart that Jesus is Lord and Christ, God raised him from the dead, then you'll be saved. It's a declaration of faith. For some of you, you make that declaration this morning for the very first time. For others of you, you've been a Christian. You are a Christian. And the reality is you have minimized the importance of companionship. Some of y'all, you're hiding in plain sight. You're hurting right now. You're struggling spiritually, your marriage is hard, your life's hard, and you're hiding in plain sight. And what I need you to understand is just let you know a little tip, and I just secret. I let the earlier service in, so they're looped in on this little secret too. I'm going to share with y'all. You ready? You might want to jot this down. We're all broken people. Every one of us is broken. We're all jacked up. We have dirty hearts with deep, dark things inside of those hearts. And we desperately need people around us that can remind us of the beauty of the gospel in the midst of that. We don't have a problem seeing our faults. What we need is people holding up the beauty of what Christ has done for us. Which means that group life matters. We need that. And for some of y'all, it's like you might even be in a group, but you're up here. And maybe an action step for y'all is you come out and you're like, hey, group, listen, we got to keep it 100. We got to get out of here and start talking about how we're really doing down here. And I just need you to know it's going to be totally fine when you confess those things, because we're all broken people. Nobody's better. Each of us needs the same amount of grace. And Jesus gave that to us. So if you're in a group and somebody confesses something, I've been ticked off at God, didn't read my Bible for 2 weeks. Nobody should be like, oh, I can't believe that. Because chances are everybody in here's done that at some point. You know what I mean? We've got to start adding in some authenticity to the reality of where we are spiritually, and bringing that into group life, saying it's okay to not be okay, and it's okay to confess things that we're dealing with, because every person in here has a sin that they're dealing with. And no sin is greater than the other person's sin. Gotcha. Mine's worse. Mine's better. I'm not as bad as you. No. Every one of us needs the same amount of grace. We got to be reminded of that. Groups help us do that. For some of you this morning, you got to get serious again about companionship. Either recommitting to your group, finding a group, leaning in the midst of your group. And some of you might just be grabbing hold of the grace of God again. Coming down here and praying and saying, man, I've just forgotten how much I need it. I've gotten caught up in the busyness of life, and everything's just kind of going on, and I don't prioritize any kind of companionship. Would you bow your heads with me? God, we love you. We thank you that you didn't save us into isolation, but you saved us into your church. Thank you that you've given us opportunities to be able to connect with people. I pray that we'd take this to heart, that we'd be a church that really lives this out, that embraces this, that leans into even some of the uncomfortable nature of the call to companionship. And I pray that we'd be a church that goes all in on this, and that together we would see a gospel impact happen in us, to us, through us, and that these groups would be catalysts for that. God, we can't do this life on our own. We need you, And we need your church. Give us the boldness and the courage to take those steps. And it's in Jesus' name that we pray.